The technology is so cheap, but the quality is so good, you don't ever need to settle for anything less than good. You can have a great sounding mic for $100 to $150. We had her hop on Riverside with her, and you would have never guessed that I was using a microphone that's less than $100 in between audio recorded with a $400. Having great audio is all about self-respect, not just respect for your audience and not just respect for the host. If nobody's gonna respect your show, if you can't even respect the audio. I have avoided this very topic like the plague because I just never felt like I needed to go there, but apparently I do. Welcome back to Your Mic. My name is Freddie Cruz, founder of Speak Podcasting. If you want to chat pods, hit me up, Freddie, at speakpodcasting.com. And back to the gospel of poor audio. For 1 second, I just want you to pretend that you're listening to a late night sermon, not watching anything, but you're listening. Your eyes are closed and you're pretending as if you are right there on the first floor listening to the preacher preach. He's reading from scripture. You can hear the passion in his voice. Maybe it's your favorite verse. Thing is,
it sounds like he's shouting through a pillow.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you're not watching and you're listening, I was covering my mouth. It sounds like he's shouting through a pillow. You know,
Shouting through a pillow.
Not good. Definitely not good. And when it comes to audio, the reason why I have been avoiding this subject for so long is because the technology has gotten to a point where it's so, just as much as I hate the word cheap, the technology is so cheap, but the quality is so good, you don't ever need to settle for anything less than good. You can have a great sounding mic for $100 to $150. For Speak Podcasting's clients who record remote interviews, we rely heavily on the ATR 2100X. Not only do you not need some sort of external machine to connect to, you connect that ATR 2100X. By the way, they are not a sponsor of Speak Podcasting or me, Freddie Cruz. We just love the product. You connect it to your laptop or tablet or desktop and rock and roll. And this is how amazing the ATR sounds. A couple of years ago, I was editing a podcast episode for one of our flagship clients, the Rose Breast Center of Excellence. Their show is Let's Talk About Your Breasts. And there was a mispronunciation of one of the guests' names. And I wasn't able to make it to the Rose's office in Southeast Houston in time to capture the audio with my Shure SM7B microphones. That's the mic that we love using for in-person recordings, okay? So we had Dorothy, who's the co-founder and CEO and the host of the podcast. We had her hop on Riverside with her ATR 2100X, record the name, and then in Pro Tools, I imported Dorothy saying the name, and with my audio chain, which consists of a Renaissance EQ6 equalizer and some compression and a limiter, and you would have never guessed that I was using a microphone that's less than $100 in between audio recorded with a $400 Shure SM7B microphone. And that, my friend, is just how great that microphone is. But it's not the only mic. I've got industry peers who love other models. And we're not going to laundry list every single mic, but you can do your homework. You can go up on Amazon and search for a podcast mic that is less than $100. And you can just rock and roll. You don't have to settle for default Zoom audio. You don't have to settle for your default desktop audio. You don't have to settle for a $20 lav mic that you bought on Amazon because you wanted to try and have something quote unquote professional. Make the investment, and when you are hosting a podcast, your listeners, especially if your show is an extension of your business, your listeners are going to take you that much more serious, because they're going to hear that you invested enough time and capital, not very much capital, into the sound of your show. And if you're a guest on somebody's podcast, it behooves you to make that same investment, especially if you're using guesting as a brand strategy for your business, that if somebody is willing to share their audience with you and use that time dedicated to you and the value that you bring to their audience and their show, well, the least you could do is invest in a mic that sounds great. That's not even $100, not even close to $100. So if you're going to be recording an episode as a guest on somebody's podcast, you can quite literally buy something on a Wednesday morning and get it by that following Thursday evening. Spend about 30 minutes learning how to connect it and adjust the levels and all that other sort of hoo-ha. And then that next day, that next Friday morning, if you got a recording, boom, you are set. You are taken care of. It's just that easy. And so when you really think about it, when you really think about audio quality, and I'm not trying to be precious here, but when you think about audio quality, and we're going back to investing the time and the capital that is necessary for making your show sound not just good, but professional, what does that tell you? It tells your audience, it signals to these people who might be prospective clients, customers of your business, whether it's a service or an actual product, especially if you're B2B. And these people that have been following you on LinkedIn, they're going to know. Having great audio is all about self-respect, not just respect for your audience, and not just respect for the host if you are deploying your talent to other people's audience. It's a matter of self-respect as well. And nobody's going to respect your show if you can't even respect the audio. And I hate that I'm even having this talk, because there are some podcasts out there with far less than stellar audio, but good content. And I'll use an example. There are a couple of really big name business people who experiment with different sounds, and these are people who speak at large conferences. And so they'll use their keynote speeches as audio for their podcast. And so it kind of sounds like they are in a large auditorium, because they likely are. You get that reverb, okay, and the crowd noise, and it doesn't sound like they're in studio. So the quality is far different from an intimate studio setting. And so just remember that if you're going to take that risk and use that audio, tread very lightly and make sure that it's at least somewhat dressed up in post-production, and not just using the raw audio from whatever file you get via Dropbox or Google or what have you. There's another podcast host who's worth quite literally hundreds of millions of dollars, who had people call into his show, and I could almost guarantee you, I was listening to the audio version, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere, but it sounded as if he was taking live calls, and he was holding his phone to the microphone. And that was how they were playing back the callers into his show. Now, I've worked in broadcast radio for 25 years, up until 2021. And I can assure you that the technology has not changed. There are dedicated phone lines, and there's a certain process for airing callers on any kind of a show. I've got a Rodecaster board that we use in studio, and then we deploy it whenever we record remote interviews at our clients' offices. That was not using any sort of tool that is professional grade. And so when you hear these top-ranked business people, these world-class entrepreneurs, they can get away with doing this because of who they are. Let me backtrack that and say it again. They can do this. Use bad audio and know that they can get away with it because of who they are. The content, objectively speaking, great. The audio quality, not so much. And so if you're going to take that kind of a creative risk with your audio, and maybe you're not even a year into it, possibly less than 25 episodes into your podcast journey, you'll definitely want to tread lightly. So, what do we learn here? Bad audio can happen to good podcasters, but it never has to be this way. It just doesn't. For less than $100. I'm currently recording this episode on a Tuesday, which is going to go out in about a week and a half from the time of the recording. And I can tell you right now, I could go home, order a mic for less than $100 on Amazon, have it delivered in 24 hours, learn how to use it. It'll sound good. I don't need an external device to connect it to my iPad, connect it to my desktop, rock and roll in less than 30 minutes. It's just that easy, and there's absolutely no excuse for it. At the end of the day, good sound doesn't just prove that you're a professional. It means you care. And that, my friend, is the cost of entry when it comes to embarking on your podcast journey. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Your Mic. If you have any questions, please hit me up on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and shoot me an email. Freddie with a Y at speakpodcasting.com. Till next time.